In today's video, mainstream media is now pushing back on Democrats for their video instructing military personnel to defy illegal orders. Also, Venezuela could be hit with military airstrikes at any moment now, and Chicago has been dealt another deadly weekend. We'll show you both sides to these stories, but let's start with Democrats and their justification for this video. Take a listen.
And here's what White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said about your video.
They're suggesting, Nancy, that the president has given illegal orders, which he has not. Every single order that is given to this United States military by this commander-in-chief and through this chain of command, through the Secretary of War, is lawful.
Is that an accurate statement?
So I think the reason we put that statement out is because the sheer number of, frankly, young officers who are coming to us and saying, I just am not sure. What do I do? You know, I'm in Southcom and I'm involved in the National Guard. I'm just not sure. What do I do? And I think, look, you don't have to take my word for it. We've had report after report of legal officer, JAG officers coming forward and saying, look, I push back on this. I'm not sure that this is legal. There is such things as illegal orders. That's why it's in the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Going back to Nuremberg, right? And it's a totally benign statement. And if the president is concerned about it, then he should stay deeply within the law. But I think it's important to know it's not hypothetical, right?
Now, it seems like we cannot get away from this story because Democrats continue to double down on their message and the president continues to double down on his message as well. And this is all centered around Democrats claiming that they're helping soldiers by instructing them to defy illegal orders from the president. Now, obviously, that implies that the president has issued illegal orders, which he hasn't, and Democrats can't even come up with an order that he has. And the one they try to use is really one that was more of a suggestion from his first Trump administration, which is interesting, right? So on its face, when we're talking about reality, does this video actually help the military soldier? Absolutely not. Does this help them gain political leverage? Absolutely not. Does this help the American people, the working class? No, it doesn't. How about optics wise? Does this make sense for the party? No, it doesn't. And overall, does this follow the principle over tribalism thing that I like to talk about often? No, this is a tribal move from Democrats. So the president put this up as a response to traitors that told the military to disobey my orders should be in jail right now, not roaming the fake news networks trying to explain that what they said was okay. And what's interesting, when she is pressed about, hey, can you share an exact order that you feel is illegal? She couldn't even do it. Take a listen.
This president, in the last administration, his last administration, asked his Secretary of Defense and his chairman of the Joint Chiefs to, quote, shoot at their legs at unarmed protesters in front of the White House that he wanted moved.
Actually, I know you're talking about Mark Esper's book. He didn't exactly say that. He said the president suggested that, but they were never ordered to do that.
And he got out of the Oval Office quickly so that he wasn't told to actually do it. And I give him a lot of credit for that. I give him a lot of credit.
So let's talk right now. Do you believe President Trump has issued any illegal orders?
To my knowledge, I am not aware of things that are illegal, but certainly there are some legal gymnastics that are going on with these Caribbean strikes and everything related to Venezuela.
Okay, just a couple of things. Number one, what's happening with Venezuela and the U.S. Navy being deployed to the Caribbeans, okay, that is not an illegal order. Now, she has to do the actual mental gymnastics because she is quoting from a book that's pure speculation, by the way. And if you were in front of a judge, they would call it hearsay, where the president made a suggestion, not an official order. That's what they have to use to justify this video. That's how much they're reaching. And again, this is all about tribalism for them, because if they were focused on principles, they'd be talking about affordability. Notice they're not doing that right now. Okay, it's all about Trump, Trump, Trumpity, Trump. Now let's go to Scott Besson because he was asked the same question by Kristen Welker, and here was his response. Take a listen.
President Trump accused these lawmakers of, quote, seditious behavior punishable by death. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that every order President Trump gives is lawful. Are you confident that every order that President Trump gives is lawful, Mr. Secretary?
Kristen, what I am confident of is that this was a display of gross negligence here, that there are 2.1 million service members. And you're probably going to say, oh, like off the rails representatives have gotten death threats. Well, what about the 2.1 million service members? They have put their lives at risk. There is one commander in chief, and when you step outside of the chain of command and try to create the noise and chaos that only helps our enemies.
Are you confident, though, Mr. Secretary, that every order that President Trump gives is in fact lawful, as Caroline Leavitt has said?
I am confident of that, and I am also confident that this was a complete mistake. They should retract it.
Okay.
Okay, so at this point, I think it's very clear that this is self-destructing behavior from Democrats, okay? That's exactly what this is. And why do I say that? Well, it's simple. Civilian legislators should never interfere in the operational chain of command within the military. That is the bottom line. They have no authority over military members. They don't, okay? The commander-in-chief in the executive branch is who holds the authority. Now, if they disagree with what he's doing or what the military is doing, why don't they introduce a piece of legislation? Why don't they pass a law? Okay. But to go out there in front of a camera and play these games, you're wasting taxpayer money and people's time. And I think that's just the bottom line to it. However, not all members see it that way. In fact, they believe that the president is mentally unwell for making these comments. And when I say they, I'm talking about none other than AOC herself. Take a listen.
To be honest, the president's remarks I think, indicate a level of instability. It's not just shocking, it's not just offensive, it's bizarre, it is erratic, it's volatile, and I think it indicates a mental state that we should all be questioning right now, whether that's emotional, mental, what have you. It is not normal to make these accusations. It is not normal to invoke these kinds of threats of violence. And it's also not normal to also dramatically misquote, as Caroline Leavitt was doing, what these members of Congress said. They made a very clear message to U.S. service members, which is that you do not have to obey an illegal order. And I think that's an important message to reiterate because this administration seems to be increasingly trying to go down that path.
So bottom line is Democrats are focused on the president and trying to find every little thing to fight against him with instead of going into the halls of Congress and actually putting policies together to obviously increase the quality of our lives. All right. That's just what's continuing to happen. And as we enter the holiday season, I guess one could argue that this is all they know. They don't know anything else but to react this way. And maybe that's because they just don't care about the American people. OK, now let's go to our next story, because when you're thinking about the government caring about the people, well, we know in the city of Chicago, that's just not a reality. This weekend alone has been another deadly weekend where hundreds of teenagers hit the streets during a tree lighting ceremony, which led to people getting shot, even a police officer getting shot. And the mayor, what does he have to say about it all? Well, I think you're going to find that shocking. Take a listen.
Violence erupts at holiday festivities in two different cities overnight. In Chicago, several people were shot as hundreds of teens rioted after the city's annual tree lighting ceremony near the famous Loop downtown. Officers were attacked. One was hospitalized.
Now, here's the scene in downtown Chicago last night. You can see one person being loaded into an ambulance. The chaos unfolded not long after that Christmas tree lighting. The normally festive celebration quickly took a dangerous turn. Police say they were called to two separate shootings in the same area. One person has died and at least 8 teens have been injured. The youngest was a 13-year-old girl who was shot in the leg but is expected to be okay. The others range from 14 years old to 18. So far, no word on any arrests there. Chicago Alderman Brian Hopkins wrote on X that last night 300 juveniles were rioting in the Loop area, adding, quote, multiple police officers were attacked and injured with mace and stun guns, at least one police officer hospitalized. Police have not confirmed those specific details.
I think this is a good time to recircle back on our health. We were just discussing this in our recent live stream. Don't know if you watched it or not, but when you're talking about your lifestyle and how you eat, it affects everything, including the way you lose weight and gain weight. In fact, scientists have come up with this term called weight cycling. Now, what is that exactly? Well, weight cycling is when you gain, let's say 10 pounds as an example, and then you lose 10 pounds and then you gain it back again. Okay. And they say it's actually detrimental to your health and can lead to serious health issues. This is the study right here. Repeatedly losing and then regaining weight, when often happens with the yo-yo dieting, may stress the heart, experts say. I think the bottom line is this is why we need help to stop the weight gain and loss in that way. And we could do that by using a non-prescription supplement called lean. Now, the cool thing about lean, it's not a GLP injection. It's not something you have to go get a prescription for. It's just a one-pill supplement that you take, created by scientists, by the way. Its studied ingredients also target weight loss in 3 powerful ways. Let me read it to you. 1, it helps maintain healthy blood sugar. 2, it helps control your appetite and cravings. And number 3, it burns the fat by converting it to energy. We know if that happens, you're likely to lose weight. So if you want to lose weight in a more meaningful way, all you have to do is use promo code DeVory at takelean.com. They're going to give you 20% off. Again, that is takelean.com. Use promo code DeVory to get 20% off today. Okay, so it's another deadly Friday in the city of Chicago, which is a city being governed by an incompetent mayor. As you guys know, Brandon Johnson has the lowest approval rating out of all mayors of major cities. No secret about it. Once again, it's another embarrassment for the Black community, in my personal opinion. You have Black kids in these streets during a holiday tradition shooting each other, getting into fights, while a mayor who also happens to be Black continues to blame everything on President Trump, as you guys know. And that's what the president, because it got his attention, said this: massive crime and rioting in the Chicago Loop area. Multiple police officers attacked and badly injured. 300 people rioting, 6 victims shot, 1 critical and 1 dead. In the meantime, Governor Pritzker and the low IQ mayor of Chicago are refusing federal government help for a situation they could be quickly remedied. The people are chanting, "Bring in Trump." Let's take a look at some of the first eyewitness accounts, people actually there recording people, the police officers and people running all over the place. Take a look.
Hey, good idea. Yep, it's time to look at it. He done pulled the gun now.
Yeah, so needless to say, this is a big problem. I mean, it's happening during the holiday season already. It's a huge distraction. It continues to obviously confirm that the mayor has not done anything effective in regards to keeping people safe. He's stretched thin because it's a sanctuary city. I mean, do they really have the resources to crack down on crime? I'm not too sure they do, which is why they should be welcoming the administration's help. Memphis has, DC did, and we saw the results there. I think the people on the ground who live in the city would welcome it. Here is an example of that. Take a listen.
It's very disheartening to see this, right. Holiday time, everybody wants to celebrate and enjoy the evening, and something like this happens.
And you know what sticks out to me the most is that even talking about this story is no longer a surprise to people, right? This is like regular news, regular business, normal way of doing things at this point in the city of Chicago, okay? Now, to prove my point about how incompetent this mayor really is, he acknowledged in an interview, this was about a week ago, where they knew the amount of teenagers that would be on the street on Friday night doing something called these TikTok trends, etc. So they knew there would be an influx of young people out on the streets, which would increase crime because that's how the city of Chicago goes. Here is acknowledging that they already knew about all this. Take a listen.
This gathering was circulating on social media for a couple days ahead of it actually taking place. What was the city's plan to proactively meet that ahead of the gathering itself? This was on TikTok and it was circulating. People were telling folks to avoid downtown because there was a teen takeover planned.
Yeah, so we have been monitoring social media and this gathering for a couple of days. And so working with the Chicago Police Department and the Chicago Public Schools, there was a communication that was delivered to CPS to encourage young people not to participate in these unauthorized gatherings. We had 700 additional officers on top of the 1st Police District present. We had CVI workers that were out there as well, but clearly what we put in place did not do enough to prevent what we were concerned about from actually manifesting. We will continue to make the necessary adjustments as we move along to ensure that these large, peaceful, citywide events can take place without the terror and the harm of gun violence.
Now, here's an honest question for the mayor. If you can't protect people who are riding on the subway, the city transportation, how are you going to keep events like that safe? How are you going to protect the people of Chicago? And you guys were given a heads up about this particular event already, and you guys were still not able to manage it. Remember, somebody's dead over this event, so the end result is a net negative, okay? Now, I'm not saying anything you guys don't already know, but here are some more people in Chicago criticizing the mayor, especially about the woman who was set on fire. Take a listen.
Did you hear about the woman that was attacked on the train and was lit on fire?
I heard on the news, yes.
And what do you think about that as a commuter?
Well, obviously it's very scary because you don't know nowadays if you're safe or not in public transportation.
I definitely won't let my wife go on public transport by herself.
There needs to be more security, and that there needs to be someone to monitor more than just the cameras that are on the trains. You should be able to feel safe on the trains.
Were you aware that the mayor, Brandon Johnson, said that this was just an isolated incident?
I don't believe that it's an isolated incident. You know, I challenge him to go on the train and just see what the commuters are seeing and what the commuters are going through.
And we're being lied to our faces.
Were you aware that this individual had been arrested over 40 times?
He should have already been in jail and not be out on bond or whatever the case may be.
It definitely feels like criminal justice reform isn't really doing anything for the public.
The guy should have been in jail at some point. I mean, he should have been in jail and not able to move.
And as a resident of Chicago, do you think that you deserve better?
I know I deserve better.
All right. So, number one, this is what happens when you have soft on crime policies. Okay. If you're an independent, a centrist, a Democrat, or Republican, and you're living in a city that has a Democrat mayor, chances are they're operating with the same policies that exist in the city of Chicago. And innocent people get hurt in the process. This shouldn't be a partisan issue. People's safety should be a top priority. And what happens is they justify not doing this because of empathy or compassion, or they believe it's inhumane to lock up people. Remember, Seattle, Portland, they don't believe in locking up people and keeping them in the prison, okay? They'll keep letting them out on the streets. And we've seen that in the city of Chicago. And again, if they can't even prevent teenagers from rioting and shooting each other, they definitely are not going to be able to keep someone who was locked up 44 times, actually, correction, 72 times. They're not going to be able to prevent him from committing another crime. Okay, next story, Venezuela. As you guys know, I think it's obvious at this point, a regime change is on the menu. And just to prove my point, take a look at the force that we actually have in international waters right outside Venezuela. Take a listen.
U.S. significantly increasing its military presence in the Caribbean, deploying bombers, warships, and Marines to target narco-terrorists. Lucas Tomlinson's live in Trinidad to explain. Hi, Lucas.
Good afternoon, Mike. And after this show of force of U.S. warships in the Caribbean, President Trump says he's open to speaking with Venezuela's leader, Nicolas Maduro, hoping to have that conversation soon. At a rally in Caracas, Maduro said he's open to dialogue, but not conflict.
War! War, no! Never, never war!
In the Venezuelan capital of Caracas yesterday, hundreds of college students took to the streets, likely forced or highly encouraged, Mike, to support the embattled leader. Many blamed for skyrocketing inflation and sending drugs and thousands of migrants to the U.S. shores. Here's Maduro doing his version of the peace dance. A Venezuelan cartel linked to Maduro and his regime will be added to the State Department's foreign terrorist list on Monday, opening up to potential strikes by the U.S. military. Where right now, about a quarter of the U.S. Navy's deployed warships are in the Caribbean.
Okay, let's just pause that for a second. He said a quarter of the U.S. Navy squadrons are in the Caribbean. That's crazy, okay? That just tells you how serious this is becoming. And let me just clarify something here. When we're seeking a regime change, it makes sense if you're going to do it for a country where there was an election held, okay, and 70% of the people voted for someone else, okay, and the person who lost refuses to leave the actual office. I mean, I could reason with that, okay? And let's not forget this guy is in charge of one of the cartels, okay? Let's just be honest about that. Now, I think he's exactly what Democrats accuse President Trump of being. He is a fascist. He is an authoritarian, a guy who refuses to leave office. You got triple digit inflation. They've used the government and the military, coerce people, murder people, assassinate people. We know all this already. It's just fascinating that people in America, they have no idea what fascism is unless they actually lived in a country that is subjected to that, and that is Venezuela.
The Vanguard right here, the aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford, with 4 squadrons of F-18 Super Hornets aboard. There are now over 200 Tomahawk cruise missiles in theater aboard Gotcha missile destroyers and cruisers. And one of those destroyers, Mike, the USS Stockdale, recently cut off a Russian oil tanker headed for Venezuela from Cuba, according to Bloomberg. The tanker now sits off the coast of Venezuela, where the FAA has issued a new warning to airliners flying over Venezuela in the southern Caribbean after F-18s from Ford were seen flying offshore. Trump's former special envoy for Venezuela, Elliot Abrams, thinks regime change could be easier this time than in past.
Now, let's go back to the regime change talking point. The bad part about it is the United States of America is in the negative when they do that. Meaning what? We've lost more than we won when executing regime changes. They've always come back to bite us in the you-know-what. Now, you could argue that regime change in the Middle East might be different than in a country like Venezuela, especially given who is the leader of the opposition party, especially if we take in what the country used to be before he took over, which is one of the wealthiest countries in the world. So I'm not arguing for regime change, for the record. I don't believe in them either. But if this administration believes this is going to be a net positive, only the results and time will prove that, of course. Now,
do you think he wants to go to war with Venezuela? Do you think
I don't know. I don't know. I think he is trying to put outside pressure on Maduro, but by doing it in this kind of America-only approach, again, without giving any sign to, I think, even the Republicans on the Hill, what his plans are, I'm not sure is the right way to do foreign policy. You couple this Venezuela misadventure with this desertion of Ukraine, and this is not making America safer, and it's sure not putting America first.
Well, my pushback to Senator Warner there would be, under your guys' leadership, did you make America safer? Was your foreign policy successful? According to history, over the last 5 years at a minimum, the answer is no. Okay. What the president has done within 10 months is, I mean, that dwarfs whatever the Biden administration was doing. Okay. So I think the president deserves a little leadway here. He has an unorthodox way of doing things. And if it obviously delivers results within the U.S. Constitution, what else is there to truly talk about? Now, again, if you're a Democrat, it's easy to just find any reason to disagree with everything that the president does. And that's the habit they're in. And so Senator Warner and all these other Democrats, they don't have any concrete talking points that is rooted in substance to disagree with what the president is doing, except regime change. We could debate about that. Absolutely. But outside of that, the president is doing what he believes is best for this country, and I'm willing to support him on that. Okay, so let's hear from you guys in the comments section below, starting with the seditious behavior punishment by death, right, that the president continues to post regarding Democrats instructing military personnel to defy illegal orders, lawful orders, unlawful orders. At the end of the day, I think it's propaganda. Let me know if you guys are still with me on that. Secondly, do you support the president intervening in regards to Venezuela? Do you support the regime change? I mean, let's just call it what it is. All right. I think it's obvious at this point. And then lastly, what do you make of what happened in Chicago over this past weekend? I just find it interesting that Democrats continue to say that the president is terrorizing neighborhoods when, in fact, their policies are truly terrorizing neighborhoods. Let me know if you guys agree with me on that. Just give me all your thoughts and everything you got in the comment section below. Now we go to our next video, where Minnesota has suffered another major blow as another fraud scheme has been exposed. Now we go to our next video, where Minnesota has suffered another major blow. People are continuing to expose the massive corruption within the Somalia community, and it's just getting worse. If you guys missed out on those updates and more, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.